Well, good day. A little bit different environment than usual, but a nice environment. It's a wonderful day here in Virginia. It's the 21st day of May, 2021. The story I'm going to tell you today, it's not on a federal agency so much as it is it's a story that will inspire you to some extent, but it's also a very tragic story. And there's an object lesson to it, so please listen through. This is a story you should know and you probably don't. The story begins way back in 1945, but I'm going to start at a logical point, and that is in the town of Aventura, Florida, the city of Aventura. It's in Dade County, it's just north, it's part of Miami, encompasses Miami, and there was a police officer named David Yazuk. And for years, he had befriended a homeless man on a street, a man whose name was Richard Flaherty. A man was 4'9", okay? And the man was obviously mentally ill. He suffered from paranoia. And David would buy him, Officer Yazuk would buy him lunch and dinner on occasion. And one day the man said, "Well, I'm going to tell you my life story." And they were at a Boston market, and he proceeded to tell him what sounded to be a fantastic story. A story about Green Berets and Vietnam combat and winning decorations and working for the government undercover. And as the officer's listening to this, he's thinking, okay, this guy is mentally ill. He's homeless, living on the street. He's all of these things, and I'm the Queen of England, right? I mean, he didn't believe it, which I don't blame him. I wouldn't believe it either. A few days later, he got a report that this man had been struck and killed while walking on the street. Again, he had been homeless, had been living on the side of the road in a makeshift tent, and he was walking on the street, killed by a hit-and-run driver. And this year was 2015. The man was 69, and he was surprised to find out that the man was that young. He looked a lot older, but again, the man had a lot of mental problems. Well, what the man had always told David was that I have this storage facility, a locker where I keep my things. So the officer went in there, and what he found was it left him speechless and led him to do a lot more research, and actually eventually led to the publication of a book and a video, The Giant Killer. And what the documentation proved was that everything that this man had told him was correct. Richard Flaherty was the man's name. He was born in 1945, and he was what we would refer to as a midget or a dwarf. He was 4'9" at the tallest. It was due to a congenital problem. He was born with it. And going in through grade school and high school, you know, he had difficulty, but he learned martial arts and he worked out quite a bit. Wasn't able to play a lot of sports, but even in his high school graduation, he was one of the most popular students in the school, 4'9". He graduated high school in 1964, tried to join the United States Army. What do you think they told him? You're too short. You can't pass the physical. Well, that wasn't good enough for him. He started to go to college for a couple years, and for 2 years he petitioned everyone he could find to get a waiver. And finally he did receive a waiver from Defense Secretary McNamara, which allowed him to enlist in 1966. And as far as anyone knows, he's the shortest person to ever been accepted into the Army. He went through basic training at Fort Benning, then he went through advanced infantry training there, and then he went to Airborne School. Now, for those of you who don't know, one of the things that you have to do at Airborne School, you have two chutes. You have a primary and a reserve, plus at one time you have to jump with all of your gear and a weapon. Now, this is tough enough if you're of normal height or a little shorter than usual. If you're 4'9", I don't know where you're going to put your rucksack, but he did. He made all of his jumps. He got his airborne wings. They selected him for OCS, which for those of you who don't know is Officer Candidate School. He graduated as a second lieutenant and was assigned to the 101st Airborne Division, which was then in Vietnam, as a platoon leader. And he arrived just in time for the Tet Offensive, January 1968. Saw some of the toughest combat in Vietnam. During his first stint in Vietnam, he would win a Silver Star, which is the third highest medal for valor in the U.S. military, 2 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts. He was well thought of by his troops. Even though he was 4'9", he led from the front. They followed. He led by example. After he returned from Vietnam, you'd think he'd had enough. No, he signed up for Special Forces and passed the training and was a Special Forces officer, a captain. He made his second deployment to Vietnam, then spent a lot of time in Thailand training the Thai military. Then finally returned to the United States and was discharged in 1971. And his initial hope was to form or begin a clothing manufacturing business. That fell apart. And here we see the tragedy start to fall into his life. He began to attend college on the GI Bill. His girlfriend was also a dwarf, a midget. She was of Jewish descent. Her family refused to allow him to marry her because he was Catholic, she's Jewish. She ended up being killed in an automobile accident. And after that, his life kind of falls apart. For a period of time, he works as a postman for the post office, mail carrier for the Hallandale post office, which is in South Florida. I lived in Hallandale. And then for a while, he worked as a contract mercenary in places such as Rhodesia and Angola. And he also assisted the CIA in Nicaragua. And all this came to an end when he was caught selling silencers to an undercover agent of the ATF. At that point, he was given the option, become an informant or go to prison. And unhappily, he became an informant for the ATF. And he did turn into former Special Forces guys for bombs and explosives. But after that, pretty much his life, he ended up on the street. This is probably the mid-1980s, and he remained on the street for the rest of his life. In the locker, Officer Yazek found psychiatric reports, medals, pictures, some of which I'm going to post along with this. A whole trove of documents, a passport that indicated whenever this guy had money, he would travel the world. And he had been to Iraq, he'd been to Cambodia, he'd been everywhere. But ultimately, he lived on the street and he died under the wheels of a hit-and-run driver. He lived off of money that people would give him. And, having dealt with a lot of homeless people, having dealt with a lot of mentally ill people when I was a sheriff's deputy in the jail, I can say sometimes, they don't want help. But on the other hand, I will say this. I think this man would have taken help if we had given it to him. Officer Yazek noted that he was, deeply paranoid. He thought that Yazek was an agent of the CIA following him around, and he had to calm him down. Actually, their last meeting, he had to do this. So the man had mental issues. He should have been given help. My point is this. He deserved a lot more than we gave him. The very fact that he saw the combat that he did, that he went through what he did, in my mind should have warranted a full military retirement. And this brings me to it's inspiring in a sense that someone who's all of 4'9" can be more of a man than me, or somebody who's much, twice the man that most of us are. But at the same time, our country often turns its back on these people. One of the most depressing things that I see on TV, and I hope you give money to it, I do, it's the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, and it's $11 a month, not a lot. And the money goes to, you'll see guys on TV who are blown up. They're missing arms, they're missing sometimes both their arms and legs, and what they want is just money so that a house can be built that they can live in.
Home.
Home.
Something to be proud of.
Home.
Safe.
Comfort. Worthy of protection.
Family.
Home.
I was deployed to Afghanistan.
I was on patrol.
March 26, 2010.
During a dismounted patrol.
I happened to step in the wrong spot.
And took a sniper round into the chest.
This is the date I was hit.
I lost my legs almost immediately.
I lost my left hand and both my legs above the knee.
My arm was gone, so I closed my eyes, thinking to myself, if I just keep breathing, I will make it home to my wife.
I just wanted to serve my country. Every day I'm still adapting to this new life.
It was hard having everybody change their lifestyle to take care of me.
A typical home doesn't feel like home to me.
They have to carry my chair up the stairs.
The hardest thing in my life is to have to call and yell for my children to help pick me off the bathroom floor.
Where do you go when home isn't home anymore?
This is Mark Wahlberg. There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risked their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Yes, I'm on the waiting list to have a home built.
It's going to be amazing.
The smart home technology, it makes my life a whole lot easier.
And it's 100% accessible.
It's built to fit my needs. For me to gain independence again would be just amazing.
Be able to just take care of myself as an individual.
This home will allow me to be self-sufficient.
It'll help me live my life. It gives me back some of my dignity, who I used to be.
There is a waiting list for houses.
This is the waiting list. There are a lot of people on that list, yeah.
There are a lot of guys like me out there.
Maybe too many.
It gives you back your dignity, your pride, your self-perseverance.
Thanks to Tunnel to Towers, I'm going to have all these freedoms given back to me.
Home.
Personal.
Safety.
Dignity.
Family. Independence. Confidence.
It's the American dream, isn't it? Home.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts. Please visit tunneltotowers.org.
And these are guys who did what we asked them to do. They went to Afghanistan, they went to Iraq, they were blown up. And now they're reduced to begging for money on television. And I also think of Richard Flaherty, He did everything everyone asked him to do, and then some, and was left on the street. When I looked just yesterday, a $1.9 billion dollar bill was spent to upgrade Capitol security. Now, why do we need to upgrade Capitol security? Well, this is the answer, ladies and gentlemen. You really don't. But again, the fact of the matter is, when you look at the amount of expenditure that is done on the Secret Service, the amount of expenditure that's done on the Capitol Police, the people in charge do not skimp at all on their own personal safety. And personally, most of them are very cowardly men and women. Okay, so as a law enforcement officer, as someone in the military, you're going to have to take care of each other. And we're not black, we're not white, we're not yellow, we're blue, okay? Or if you're in the Border Patrol, you're green, okay? And if you're in the military, we're in a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And we got to take care of each other. Because if we don't take care of each other, ain't nobody going to take care of us. And taking care of each other means, we stick up for each other. Okay? We give each other the benefit of the doubt. We give each other good advice. We give each other solace. We give each other financial support when we need it. Because, again, not a lot of people want to do the kind of work that I did, or that you're going to do, or that Richard Flaherty did. So God rest the soul of Richard Flaherty, and may God bless all of you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for the kind comments that you make in the comment section. And if you need help with your resume, please send the resume, and I can doctor the wording a little bit, but I can't write it from the ground up, okay? That I can't do. I don't know how to do that. So have a great weekend. Thank you.